49ers and Cowboys. San Francisco head coach Jim Harbaugh recently cut off contract negotiations until after this season, and his relationship with the front office, let's just say it's rocky at best. How does this thing end?
I think in a very ugly divorce. I'd be surprised if Jim Harbaugh is actually back in San Francisco next year. And
even if they make a long playoff run again like they have the last 3 years?
Yeah, I just think his time has kind of come and gone there. And look, it's even gotten bad there with the players. Some of the veteran players there, they used to bite their tongue. Now they're not. When you hear the players talk about Jim Harbaugh, they air their gripes out. Completely different dynamic now than it was when he got there.
Jim Harbaugh's not going back to college. If he gets canned in San Francisco, remember the Peyton Manning tour they had? When Peyton basically, you send the private jet, I'll fly to your team. Harbaugh will have that. There'll be 7 owners in this league, blank check it. They got a new TV deal. They'll pay him $10 million a year. He'll go anywhere in the league he wants. Anywhere in the league he wants. Michigan in 1988 was a great job. In 98, it was a pretty good job. 2014, I don't think it qualifies as a, quote, great job. He's not going back to college. I don't buy it at all. There's a ton of rumors. I've been hearing this for 2 years. I know he's a Michigan guy, and I think he would do well. Why would he not take an NFL gig? He's not going to college. I think Michigan would be the choice, but I don't buy it. He turned down Texas, not interested in USC. He likes the NFL. But you don't, once you've had success in the NFL, go back to college. It just doesn't work that way. He's not going back to college.
That is Shane Morris, the Michigan quarterback whose head-rattling injury on Saturday has knocked his school's storied football program on its back. Today we went looking for U of M's new president, Mark Schlissel. He's been on the job for barely a few months, and at his office today, he wasn't ready to talk. The question today, why did Coach Brady Hoke tell reporters yesterday that Morris didn't suffer a concussion, only to be contradicted hours later by athletic director Dave Brandon in a 1 a.m. press release? Hoke and Brandon's different stories heightened suspicions.
Either he didn't know that Shane Morris was concussed, or he lied about it. Your choices are incompetence at that point for the department or mendacity, lying. Don't put the man up there if he's not prepared to answer questions, and he clearly was not.
After Saturday's big hit, Shane Morris seemed dazed, confused, and unsteady. Well, today, you could say the same about U of M's athletic department. In Ann Arbor, I'm Ross Jones, 7 Action News.
I think was a mistake. Let me preface as well. I'm a Michigan guy. I went to Michigan. I was watching that game on Saturday, and I saw that hit, and it was a pretty significant hit. It's not an exact science to diagnose a concussion, but I can tell you anybody who was watching that probably noticed that it was a very big hit. He was down on the ground for a period of time and then eventually was motioned out because a neurologist on the sideline, Brooke, saw that he was stumbling around. And I think that they fell down on the job when it came to this particular player.
Fire Brandon! Fire Brandon! Fire Brandon! Fire Brandon!
Michigan had just done the honest thing on Sunday. They wouldn't have had a situation where news organizations were dragging the name of the university through the mud for 3-4 days. And they finally did it tonight with Schlissel's statement. But this is a pattern, and it's got to stop.
A pattern students and fans aren't standing for. In Ann Arbor, Nicole Chadwick.
John U. Bacon, well-noted author.
Yes, sir.
Always has an opinion when it comes to Michigan football. He joins us live here on the Huge Show across Michigan. How you doing, John?
Doing very well, Bill. Good to hear from you.
Who would be at the top of the realistic John U. Bacon list to be the next head football coach at Michigan if Brady Hoke doesn't have that miracle finish?
Well, I've talked to people who know those top 3 candidates quite well, and they simply will not come under the current administration. It's not going to happen.
John U. Bacon, if you had to give me a guesstimate, and we'll put in the huge time capsule that a year from now, fill in the blank, this guy will be the head coach at Michigan, how would John U. Bacon, only a guesstimate, fill it in?
It's only a guesstimate, and keep in mind, Bill, I am so smart, I picked Michigan to be 10-2 this year. So you're getting exactly what you're paying for here, Bill, on my guess. But if I had to bet right now, I'd bet that Brad Bates was the athletic director and one of the 2 Harbaughs was the head coach.
Dave Brandon's emails, MGO blog.
Well done.
This guy wrote something about, I don't watch these games anymore. It's too painful. This team's in serious trouble. and Dave Brandon, and they've been fighting to sort of verify that this was Dave.
Mm-hmm.
Says, I suggest you find a new team to support. We'll be fine without you. Have a happy life.
What does he think? Under an hour later, 50 minutes later. Do you see the response?
Quit drinking and go to bed?
Yep. That was Dave Brandon's response at 12:30 in the morning.
And then he gets a response at 7:59 p.m. the next day. Thanks for the classy response. You may have just lost another season ticket holder.
Yeah, that's what the original emailer wrote back. After quit drinking, go to bed. He says, thanks for the classy response. You may have just lost another season ticket holder. And then Brandon responds to that. Getting advice from you on what constitutes a classy email is really a joke. Good luck.
Oh, he's such
Why
an
is he in a
ass.
pissing match
He's
with this
such
guy?
an ass.
Now nobody gets tickets because of you.
I don't believe you know what due respect is. You sent a snarky negative article at 11:58 p.m. the night of a very disappointing loss. Tell me what we are sick of. I don't know you had been elected to represent anyone.
I don't know who you are.
Oh my God. And I really don't care about your views based on what you read. And I don't accept you as a representative of anyone other than yourself. What a crappy thing to say.
He's so wrong, though. He's absolutely wrong.
He's very representative of what everybody says.
Oh, I love this. I love this next line. For you to point out that we just want to win is really profound.
Do you think our kids and coaches don't want to win? Do you think I don't want to win? Really? 4 question marks? Really? I don't know what you do for a living, but if you want to be an athletic director, go for it. If you want to be a coach, go for it.
Oh, my God.
What a little baby.
As it relates to seeing me on TV or newspapers, boy, that really hits him hard. Oh, that hurts.
Stings.
I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't know or care about that stuff. Apparently you do.
Oh, yeah, you don't care about that stuff.
You
right
really
there.
should get a different hobby. Oh, yeah, his hobby is looking for you on TV and newspapers.
Now here comes his typical response.
Yes, always. Well, he knows no one. He knows
I'll let
everyone.
you have the honor.
He knows everyone doesn't really want to cancel their tickets.
Yeah.
I will let the ticket office know of your decision to give up your seats. I'm sure we can use your email address to locate your file.
Ooh, is that a threat?
Yeah, it is a threat. I'm sure you'll be much happier because clearly your anger and frustration over our disappointing season has gotten the best of you.
Look in the mirror. Look in the mirror, Dave.
Oh, God, he's such a jerk. Again, if you feel like there are better, cheaper tickets available for sporting events and entertainment, Lions, Tigers, Pistons, MSU, etc., than what you receive. MSU? Than what you receive at Michigan Stadium.
What a dick.
Then just let me know, and we won't bother you with ticket renewal information for next season. I want to fill our stadium every game just like you do, but I want to fill it with the people who want to be there to support
You
our
gotta be
team.
kidding me. Oh, so that's why you
jackass!
So that's why you make a deal. That's why I make a deal to give away free tickets with 2 Coca-Cola purchases.
I hate you!
Drew's actually beating the microphone with emails from Dave Brandon.
I hate you! You're such a jerk! Oh, he thinks he's so powerful. It's just like John U. Bacon with a, your press pass has been rescinded.
Yeah.
Mr. Nigga, you don't support our program. Your press pass, bye-bye!
I accepted the resignation of Athletic Director David Brandon. Dave feels that it would be in the best interest of our student athletes, the athletic department, and the university community if he moved on to other challenges and allowed the important work of the department and the university to continue without daily distractions. I agree with this decision. I've appointed Jim Hackett to serve as the interim director of athletics. The interim appointment is effective immediately and would become formal with the approval by the Board of Regents at their next meeting. I've only prevailed upon Jim to serve as the interim director, and he very graciously agreed. We'll be working together to formulate a way forward, hopefully, in a reasonable time frame, to do a very serious and thoughtful search for a permanent athletic
Michigan
director.
AD David Brandon has resigned. He will not return next school year. Robert Smith is in studio to address it.
It appears as if Brady Hoke will not be coaching this team next year. And when you start looking at candidates out there and they start evaluating the program in totality, they look at everything about the program, and I believe that coaches, potential coaches that out there, could not see themselves wanting to take this job if David Brandon was still the head coach, or excuse me, was still the athletic director. So I think you combine all of those, and that it makes sense that this happened the way that it did.
We've heard a lot of.
Well, I asked him directly, did he believe that Jim Harbaugh would be the coach of the San Francisco 49ers beyond this season? And Jerry Rice was very candid in his belief that no, he does not believe that he will be back. He recognizes that the man has been highly productive, that he's somebody that has taken him to 3 consecutive NFC championship games, but that so much has been said and so much has gone on. Skip, he basically leaned on what I said about Jim Harbaugh the other day, intimating that he doesn't seem as passionate and as interested about being with the 49ers as he used to be.
Rumors are swirling about the future of 49ers head coach Jim Harbaugh following that brutal loss to the rival Seahawks.
It was just after the Niners' embarrassing Thanksgiving night loss to Seattle when York tweeted a thank you to the faithful, but wrote, quote, "This performance wasn't acceptable. I apologize for that."
Do you think Jed York was trying to say something?
In a way, yes. Yeah.
What?
Sorry, Jim, you might be looking for a new job.
He's gone. There's way too much smoke for there not to be some fire here. Listen, do you understand what that report effectively says? That he's coaching for his job? So a guy that's taken you to 3 consecutive NFC title games and 1 Super Bowl, was close to winning it, essentially has to run the table in order for the team to decide to keep him? That's how I'm interpreting that. He's out of here. I know what the problem is, though, and I understand why you wanted him to stay on 2 fronts. Not just because you don't want to go back to the days of the coaching carousel with your team. Your worst nightmare might come true because Brady Hoke finds out his future today. If he ends up at Michigan, that's a double whammy for you.
Mike, let me just settle this right now.
What?
Okay? Jim Harbaugh is not going to coach at University of Michigan. If Jim Harbaugh coaches at the University of Michigan, I will shine every pair of shoes that you have. And yes, I realize it's on tape.
God, please.
It's not happening.
Now.
He's not going there.
Okay.
And I know, and by the way, let me settle something else. Even if he did go there, I'm not scared.
You ain't got no worries?
I ain't got no worries. He's a great coach. I like him in San Francisco, but come on.
He's gone.
No.
Michigan needs a new head football coach. The university fired head coach Brady Hoke today after 4 seasons. The Wolverine football team got progressively worse during each of Hoke's 4 years. After an 11-2 inaugural campaign and a win in the Sugar Bowl in 2011, Michigan went 8-5, 7-6, and then 5-7 in the 3 subsequent years. And today, their interim athletic director Jim Hackett says that's simply not good enough.
I believe that Brady had enough time to produce results, and they're just not there today. Therefore, I believe it's time to make this transition. So what's next? Well, I plan on starting the search for his replacement immediately.
Brady Hoke gets fired. Is there anybody not named Brady Hoke who is surprised that Brady Hoke just got fired?
As someone who spent time in East Lansing in college, I'm very disappointed in this decision. I was hoping for
extension,
for tenure maybe or something like that.
I got to look at the candidates here. Here's Fox Sports 1's college football insider Bruce Feldman's top 5 coaching candidates for Michigan. Jim Harbaugh, San Francisco, went to Michigan, of course, former Bucks. Rutgers coach Greg Schiano, who turned down the job. Les Miles, the biggest name on there. Possible replacements, if not Harbaugh, though.
I would probably say Schiano. He's sitting at home. He doesn't have anything going right now, and we've seen the redemption from the NFL. College coach goes to the NFL, fails at a place in Tampa Bay.
But he turned down Michigan before.
That was before, though, and I think this is a different time. He regrets turning them down, and knowing that from people around him. He wanted to be there. I think he's going to get his way back.
The Niners stuff, Harbaugh gone, Harbaugh traded, Harbaugh going to Oakland as quarterback and coach. I mean, he's only 7 years older than George Blanda was. Harbaugh's in the headlines. He's going to continue to be in the headlines. He's been in the headlines since last offseason. That's not going to change anytime soon. The fact of the matter is he's got a year left on his contract, and the two sides are going to have to figure out a way to get out of this gracefully and diplomatically and in a way that works for both sides. I think most people believe he could wind up being traded. The Oakland Raiders are going to be changing coaches. Maybe it's there. A lot of people think that's the place that makes the most sense. Keeps Harbaugh in the Bay Area. We know the Jets are monitoring the situation. The Browns were interested last year. There will be other teams interested this year. Jim Harbaugh will have some say over the situation, but the 49ers know they have a commodity right now that's in demand elsewhere in the league.
I believe Les Miles will wind up with this job because I think Les wanted it the first time around, but there were some people in power at Michigan, I'm told by insiders, who did not want Les Miles to return as a Michigan man. Those people are no longer there, so I believe the deck has been cleared for Les Miles if, in fact, he chose to leave LSU to go back to Michigan. So that's what I think will happen. But Jim Harbaugh would be the guy who could most quickly put Michigan back on the national map.
Yeah, but I think that for Jim Harbaugh's sake, I would hope that he stays on the NFL level. Let's face reality, no matter how popular college football is, and it is incredibly popular, it's not the NFL. Nothing is the NFL. NFL is king, and somebody as gifted as him, and he has proven to be as a head coach on this level, should stay right with the big boys on the NFL scene.
Jim Harbaugh is not going to Michigan. If he does, I will shine all of your shoes. He's not going. That's how confident I am.
Let's update the Michigan search. Chris Ballas, Wolverine.com. He's all over this story. He's standing by live on the Metro Health Guest Line. How you doing, Chris?
Hey, brother. I'm doing great.
Good. Where is everything at? Because I know Colin Cowherd kind of has that little goose chase game he has going on, saying a big name now will emerge this weekend. And I'm thinking, okay, it's somebody coaching maybe who doesn't want it out yet till they're done with their championship game. Kind of made me think Gary Pinkel. I don't know what's real there. Matter of fact, I don't know what's real or what's BS anywhere since Brady Hoke's been let go. Nothing.
Well, let me fill you in then. Are you gonna believe me?
I believe you. That's why I brought you on, because I believe you.
Yep. Well, I'm going to tell you. I will tell you this. Don't believe just about anything you hear from the national guys who say that Jim Harbaugh, for example, is not even considering Michigan and that's a pipe dream. I thought Bob Winowski today wrote a great column on that and pretty much echoed what we've said from the beginning. I think it was footballscoop.com that came out of the blue and said that Jim Harbaugh's already told Michigan no and they're going to have to move on. That's completely false, and we know for a fact that's not true. We know who's talking and who's doing the talking and what they're talking about. I promise you that Harbaugh's in play, and a lot of people don't want to believe it or can't believe it. And again, I would go back to Wojo's article on that today about why it's so hard for some people to believe. But when I talked to Harbaugh 4 years ago for a story for our football preview, he told me he always had one eye on Ann Arbor. It was clear at the time that when he was coaching Stanford that he had his eyes only on his Stanford team, but he was thinking about Michigan. And if that were to open up, if Rich Rod didn't work out in year 3, then that was something that I think he'd be interested in. So I can promise you that he loves Michigan. Some of the pictures and some of the things I've heard in recent days have done nothing to change my mind that Jim Harbaugh is extremely interested in this job, that people are talking. We know that for a fact. And until Jim Harbaugh comes out and says no, and maybe even when he does, look at what happened with Nick Saban at Alabama. Jim Harbaugh is going to have the right of first refusal, and they're going to do everything they can to get him. Michigan, I've got it 50-50. I'm not going to change that just because anything can happen. But I'm telling you that Michigan and Jim Harbaugh, that is certainly in play.
The NFL Network's Ian Rappaport cited sources Sunday that Michigan officials have reached out to Harbaugh and came away with the belief that the former Wolverine quarterback wants to stay in the NFL. Harbaugh's options are endless, as his NFL record of 43-17 could generate countless pro jobs. The Harbaugh to Michigan fans countered that until he speaks up and says no thanks, the dream is still alive.
Yeah. So you go blue is right, Charles, because if you think about it, on the show yesterday, I looked at the camera and I told Jimmy to come home. I told him to come home. That we need him.
Did you plead with him?
I did.
Yeah.
Do you think I'm wasting my breath, though? You saw it in his eyes. Am I wasting my breath? Do you think there's a little bit of even a Dumb and Dumber chance that we're saying there's a chance? Is there a chance here, do you think?
Yeah, the way it sounds to me, there's not even that 1 in a million that you got on Dumb and Dumber. So it doesn't sound too good right now.
And you're saying there is a little bit of a chance that Jimmy can come home. You're going to just give me a little hope, Charles.
As chances go, I guess you do have a slight chance.
Okay.
But, man, it ain't looking good for Rich.
Charles, thanks for calling in. Enjoy the Heisman weekend, and good luck in Kansas City. And as this music shows, go blue.
Oh, man, there's music to my ears, man. Always great talking to you.
Same here, Charles. There's Charles Woodson saying there's a chance. Not a great chance. Not a Dumb and Dumber chance. But there's a chance. Just a chance. Jimmy,
come home.
Now, the Michigan football job certainly isn't what it used to be. The Wolverines coaching search has linked the school to a few different candidates, but we now have our first reported offer, and it's already been turned down. According to veteran NFL personnel man Gil Brandt, Michigan offered Duke coach David Cutcliffe the job in Ann Arbor, and the Blue Devils coach politely declined. The former Ole Miss coach has turned around the Duke program over his 7 seasons in Durham, winning 19 games over the past 2 years. It's now on to Plan B for the Wolverines, with names like Jim Harbaugh and Les Miles being linked to the Michigan job, which opened up after the school fired Brady Hoke after a 5-7 season.
Story that we're looking at on the NFL side is Jim Harbaugh and where he's going to be next year. What are you hearing?
Well, we know that Tennessee won the draft lottery last night as much as it is, and now we wait to see who wins the Jim Harbaugh lottery, because clearly he'll be moving on from San Francisco, and the question is, where does he wind up? And I still continue to believe, when you speak to most people, that most people think he will wind up in the NFL, not at the University of Michigan, which would love to hire him as its head coach. But if Jim Harbaugh were going to go to Michigan, why hasn't he gone already? I think there's some skepticism about any reported offer he may or may not have received from that school that's out there. Jim Harbaugh will be moving on. He'll be in demand in the NFL. A team like the Oakland Raiders would love to have Jim Harbaugh. There's a question about whether a team like the Chicago Bears would make a move for Jim Harbaugh, but there'll be no shortage of teams that go after Jim Harbaugh, and any team that is making a head coaching change this offseason in the coming weeks will certainly look at Jim Harbaugh if he's available, and the thinking continues to be that he will stay in the NFL because that's what he wants to do.
Okay, Adam, thanks. Herm and then Mark, pick the best landing spot for Jim.
I would say the Oakland Raiders. His wife loves living on the West Coast. It's a team that has a young quarterback.
I agree with Coach. I think the Oakland Raiders make the most sense, but I'm almost certain that he will coach in the National Football League. That's the one
Not
thing.
Michigan.
I just don't see him going back to college. I think he has something to prove. He almost won a Super Bowl as a player. Yep. He hasn't won a Super Bowl as a coach. I think that's really important to him.
We appreciate your time this morning, but for Michigan fans out there that are hearing you now, that read your information online, and I've been doing the same and following this story, what would your message be to them? Would it be just, hey, hold on, be patient, just wait this out, Harbaugh's coming?
Let me just quote Aaron Rodgers, who I detest. Relax. Stop
Relax.
reading message boards. Every anonymous poster isn't a source. And I'm not telling you I know any better than anyone else. I'm just telling you my sources are better than anyone else. And maybe the same as some of the guys you're talking to, like the Bortons of the world and, John Ubake. And we're obviously talking to a lot of the same people. But my message is stop reading the message boards stop reading NFL writers. NFL writers, they think the NFL is the be-all, end-all. They can't comprehend that someone would go back and they're going to come on and they're going to say something innocuous. Now, keep in mind, everything these NFL guys say is very open-ended. So Rappaport says, well, they met with Harbaugh and they left convinced he wanted to stay in the NFL. Oh, okay, thanks. You know what I mean? Am I being crazy? But that doesn't mean anything to me. Unless you come, I can't put it any other way. I've said he's taking the Michigan job. So I'm telling you pretty emphatically he's going to take it unless something drastic happens. And these guys are giving you these open-ended things like he wants to stay in the NFL. His wife doesn't want to leave the Bay. It's all baloney. It's all garbage. And when I read it, and inevitably my Twitter goes crazy, and my message to Michigan fans is, relax. He's coming. And it's going to just take time.
Guys, look, the dude was a play away from winning a Super Bowl. I mean, you don't go from movies to TV. The NFL's the NFL. It's the big league. I know Michigan's as big as it gets. Actually, I kind of think that might be the best fit for him, but he shouldn't go back to college. If it's Michigan, maybe. But the NFL for him works if it's the right situation. Jacksonville Jaguars, that's not Jim Harbaugh. Oakland Raiders, maybe, but that's a dysfunctional marriage from the start. The Chicago Bears would be a perfect fit, but that's never going to happen. But someone is going to back the truck up and see this guy as a potential next Belichick, a generational pro football head coach. If you can handle all the baggage and if you can handle the ego, this is a guy who is going to be a great head coach no matter where he is. Do it at the highest level. I think he's got to.
Peter King, I've got 90 seconds left. What do you make of the news that my alma mater is opening up a Brinks truck or backing it up reportedly for Jim Harbaugh?
Rich, I would really ask you two questions about Harbaugh and Michigan. Number one, he's got to have almost a different kind of coaching staff if he goes to Michigan, because they've got to be recruiters maybe more than they have to be teachers of football. And, you know, I mean, that's a different coaching staff than you're going to have in the NFL. And then the second thing, I think, I mean, really, does Jim Harbaugh want to spend 40% of his life worrying about if John Doe from Fremont, Ohio, is going to go to Michigan or going to go to Ohio State? If I'm him, I'd rather stay in the NFL. But again, money makes the world go round, so we'll see.
If you remember, earlier this month, Rappaport reported that Michigan reached out to Harbaugh, but left that initial conversation convinced he would like to remain in the NFL. Rappaport added on Wednesday that Harbaugh has not given Michigan a definitive no at this point. ESPN's Adam Schefter also reported that Harbaugh is at least considering an offer from his alma mater. Multiple NFL and Michigan sources had said for weeks 49ers head coach Jim Harbaugh was not expected to wind up at Michigan. But in recent days, at least one person familiar with his thinking said he was at least considering it, Schefter wrote. Another person close to the process said that while it was possible Harbaugh could wind up at Michigan, it was not likely.
49ers head coach Jim Harbaugh is days away from making one of the biggest decisions of his career. He's going to have to decide whether he wants to remain in the NFL, where there are expected to be head coaching opportunities for him, or whether he wants to go back to school, back to the University of Michigan, where he once learned at the feet of Michigan coaching legend Bo Schembechler and played quarterback for the Michigan Wolverines. Harbaugh's family and friends are said to be encouraging him to go back to school. His father, Jack, once coached at Michigan with the Michigan interim athletic director, Jim Hackett, and they would love to see Jim Harbaugh go back to Michigan. But ultimately, the decision belongs to Jim Harbaugh. And in the NFL, there is unfinished business. He has not won a Super Bowl. He would love to continue to chase a Super Bowl, but his school is also called.
Here's what's going on, and you got to be really, really careful in times like this, because unless you're talking directly to Jim Harbaugh consistently, then there's no way that you can have a full picture of what's going on. And so for weeks we had the NFL reporters, right, saying there's no way he's not interested in Michigan. There's no way he would ever go back. And that's because they were talking, the only people they were talking to were people in NFL circles. It was an echo chamber.
Exactly.
They were hearing from GMs and agents and all the people that know Jim Harbaugh in an NFL sense. They were talking to no one in Ann Arbor. In Ann Arbor, it was very clear because Jim Harbaugh had not said no to Michigan. He had not sent back that he was disinterested. As a matter of fact, it was quite the contrary. So it was clear to people here that he was interested, or he'd just say no, and he hadn't done that. Well, now what you have is the opposite. You have a lot of people in Ann Arbor all talking to one another. I think there's a contingent of former players that have connections to his family, and they've been given strong indications that Jim is either leaning to or will come back from his family, and all those people are talking to one another, and it's picking up steam. And Jim is a done deal, and he's coming back, but they're only talking to Michigan people, and they're discounting the threat that the NFL is. And you're going to see some major jobs come open, and I kind of liken it to being to Jim walking into a room full of pretty girls. Sure, he may have given a promise to one of the pretty girls, but then when he walks in the room and sees 20 other ones, but now the decision gets a lot tougher, and I think that's kind of the deal right now. I think Jim Harbaugh is I got it 60-40 to Michigan. But that 40% is huge, and you got a lot of NFL teams that comprise that 40% that could easily convince him to stay in the NFL.
Why would you go? You just don't want to shine my shoes. I get it. No. If he goes, I'm bringing every pair of $1 I have. Bring him. And you spit shining them, Joe. I will do it with a smile on my face, but it ain't happening.
Fox Sports 1 insider Jay Glazer reported yesterday that the 49ers and head coach Jim Harbaugh are expected to cut ties within 24 to 48 hours after the regular season ends. The Chicago Bears, along with other NFL franchises, could show interest if Harbaugh decides to stay in the league. It's unlikely the Bears could meet Harbaugh's salary demands, while Miami announced that Joe Philbin will return in 2015. So what if Harbaugh says no to the reported $48 million offer from his alma mater? CBSSports.com's Jason LaConfora reported Sunday that Michigan has expressed interest in a handful of other current NFL coaches. including Baltimore Ravens coach John Harbaugh, New Orleans Saints coach Sean Payton, Dallas Cowboys coach Jason Garrett, and Buffalo Bills coach Doug Marrone.
All right, let's go to John U. Bacon. Like I said, he is based in Ann Arbor, Michigan, well-noted author. He'll remind us of his books here in a moment. And John sent out that tweet talking to people that the deal's done, it's not signed. And, John, what is the latest you're hearing?
Well, the latest is just that, Bill, that it is done. I talked to some sources who are very close to Jim and have been utterly reliable throughout this process and in the years past as well, including the 2011-2010 flirtation with Jim, which obviously was not consummated, if you will, the Michigan side of things. But anyway, that yes, it is done. That his friends Jim Harbaugh's friends are flying in from various points around the country on Monday, and they've got their hotel rooms all set around town. And so, if you're a Michigan fan, I suppose the party does in fact begin.
You're reporting additional information as this story just continues developing, gain speed here on this Sunday. What more can you tell us?
Yeah, what I can tell you is that Jim Harbaugh or his representatives are starting contacting some coaches around the National Football League assistants to see if they would be willing to come to the Michigan staff. And so even though there is no deal done, and I'm sure no deal can get done really for the next 24, 48 hours, but I think you can see that he's played his cards in the NFL. He's right now looking more college than he is in the NFL because, with Miami out, Jets not likely to do anything, and the other teams like Oakland maybe still in the mix. It looks like he's going to end up going to Michigan because he's starting to try to at least get a staff together that wants to go to the college ranks. Yeah, and I do believe that his preference would have been to stay in the National Football League, and down the line he could come back. But the idea is control. And trying to get control in the National Football League is the toughest thing. When he was at Stanford or San Diego, he had control. Every head coach in college has complete control. Personnel, you're the general manager, you're the president, you are everything. And that's what he would get at Michigan, just like any other college team. You don't get that in the National Football League. The closest thing might have been Oakland, if they would fire Reggie McKenzie. But I think when you look at it and, he's examined, I guess, at least mentally, all the situations that might be open in the National Football League, and you get more control in Michigan, and you want to control your own fate. Unfortunately, it didn't work out that way in San Francisco, despite his success.
Jim and I have had conversations, since he's been here, but in the last probably 2 to 3 weeks, we've talked about it. We've talked about different scenarios, different opportunities, and ultimately, we just came to the conclusion that it was best for us to go in different directions.
I felt we accomplished great things. Tremendous football. And so many people to thank for that. So many people worked so hard to construct where this football team is, and feel great to be a part of it. Feel it's been a signature years in my life, and I have much gratitude for
Albert Breer just tweeted he is now reporting Jim Harbaugh to Michigan. It is a done deal. Jim Harbaugh said last week, whatever happens, happens. Whatever doesn't happen, doesn't happen. So now we know what's going to happen. Thank you, Alex Flanagan. Conveniently enough, we have Randy Moss now outside the big house in Ann Arbor, Michigan, where you just heard it, Randy. Albert Breer says Jim Harbaugh's heading your way.
Where are the fireworks? I'm looking for the bottle rockets and everything here right now. The students are away on Christmas break still. That's probably the reason why you don't hear horns honking right now in the background. That jet plane will obviously be taking off at some point this morning to bring Michigan AD Jim Hackett along with Jim Harbaugh back home, so to speak, here to the big house, here to Ann Arbor, where he, of course, was the star quarterback for the Wolverines back in the 1980s. Here's the way we think this is going to go down. When Brady Hoke was hired, I hate to mention that to Wolverine fans and remind them that actually happened, but there was a news conference, and then he was taken to a Wolverine basketball game where he was introduced to the student body. Now, conveniently, Michigan will play its first Big Ten basketball game tomorrow against Illinois. If you flew over that M sign behind me over the big house, the Chrysler Center is just on the other side of that. That tip-off is at 3 p.m., so the expectation is that Harbaugh will have his introductory news conference, and then he'll go to the Chrysler Center to meet the student body, and boy, won't that be a lot of fun. In anticipation of that, the basketball game is already a sellout. Tickets have been a very hot commodity over the last 48 hours, Andrew.
The idea of the numbers, it seemed like we were hearing numbers at 6 years, $48 million. Is that what you've been hearing ballpark-wise?
Well, again, I have not heard any numbers yet. It's going to be big. It's going to be the highest paid coach in college football history. Because Michigan was anxious to get him in the fold, wants him in the fold. And again, I think his NFL options were not anywhere near what Michigan was at this time.
Back to that. You said NFL options. Did he want to stay in the NFL if he had an option?
Again, you'd have to ask him, and he'll never say that he did because he's going to be a Michigan man, and he's a Michigan man at heart. But the fact of the matter is, I think, my sense, if everything was on an even playing field and he had similar offers from NFL teams and Michigan, I think he would have stayed in the NFL. But he's going to be at Michigan. His heart is going to be in Michigan. He's going to be all in at Michigan, and it's going to be Jim Harbaugh and Urban Meyer in the Big Ten there going head-to-head the way that Bo Schembechler and Woody Hayes once did back in the day. And Ann Arbor, Michigan, all the people who went there are going to be ecstatic at the news that everybody here has expected the last few days because this has been reported on. But you never know until these things are, as we talked about, officially signed off on. But the biggest boosters around the school have been told that the deal is done and that Jim Harbaugh is going to be the next head coach at Michigan.
Now, this is a done deal, Harbaugh to Michigan, Pat?
Yeah, nobody wants to come out and say it, but there's certainly been nobody step up and refute any of it. It's going to happen, and it is really, really big.
I think he saved the Big Ten.
I think it's seriously that's not an overstatement. I think it is that big. He's that good. To me, there's been probably 3 transformational hires in college football this century: Saban to Alabama, Meyer to Florida, Meyer to Ohio State, and I think this is number 4. And the Big Ten needs it badly. Michigan needs it badly. And the Michigan-Ohio State rivalry could go back to Bo and Woody level.
This is spot, am I right?
Looking pretty good.
I've never done this before, so I don't know.
Make sure you get that toe right.
Oh, okay, yeah. Let me get this one right.
Yeah, I did not bring every pair of shoes.
No, you just
a few.
Just a few, just enough to maybe feel humbled.
Well, and let the record show. Let the record show.
Mike did not want this to happen.
I said I'll
let you off the bet, but I don't believe in that. See, I got heart and character. I said it. I was shining his shoes, all of them. You just moved, so you can't. Some of them still at the crib. So I'm making good on my bet because that's the kind of person I am.
You are a woman of your word. I have so much respect for you. I'm like, I don't want you to shine my shoes. Even a
couple scuff marks on these. Actually, I just took one of them out. I'm not bad at this.
Seriously, this is a bad day for you. You know you're worried about Harbaugh, Michigan.
I am not worried.
You are so concerned.
I said it, and I'm going to say it again. For Michigan State, given everything that they've been able to accomplish in the last 5 years, we should welcome Jim Harbaugh being there because it'll just make it that much sweeter.
The same that you upset in leaving your 49ers.
Yes,
you telling me you're not worried about it?
No, I'm not worried about it because our program has got to the point where we're not scared of Jim Harbaugh. He can come take those L's just like Brady Hope.
Like you taking right now?
Yeah, just like
shining my shoes are winning though. Seriously, okay. I was gonna let you off the hook. I was like, don't worry about it, just owe me one down the road. You're like, nope. You keeping the
all right, well
I didn't mean to make you Cinderella.
No, you didn't. Our beef is settled, but there's some real beef that went out there in those Twitter streets. So here's from the files of is this really happening?
College football. Sources tell 7 Action News, in fact, tonight he signed an actual contract. Jim's parents arrived on a private plane tonight at Detroit Metro and had this to say to cameras.
Where is Jim right now?
I have no idea. I really don't.
Jim's plane somehow ducked the cameras, and he was able to sneak away without much FaceTime.
Harbaugh officially introduced this afternoon as the newest head coach of the University of Michigan. Harbaugh played quarterback for the Wolverines in the mid-1980s and played 15 seasons in the NFL. He said he was reminded of one very important word this morning when he arrived in Ann Arbor.
So today, I'm very pleased and proud to announce the 20th head football coach at the University of Michigan, Jim Harbaugh. Well, I mentioned that I talked to lots of people, and one particularly famous pro coach who had done broadcasting for many years told me this. You know, Jim Hackett, you didn't just get a great coach. You got the best coach in football today. College or pro in Jim Harbaugh. Please join me in welcoming Jim to his first press conference as the Jay, Ira, and Nikki Harris family head coach of the University of Michigan, Jim Harbaugh.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Got to apologize for my voice. They dumped Gatorade over me on Sunday after our ball game, and I've lost my vocal cords a little bit, but I don't know if anybody saw me trip on the way in. Did anybody see that? A lesser athlete would have gone down. Top to bottom, Michigan is about excellence, is about greatness. And you have my pledge that I will carry forward the tradition of excellence of the University of Michigan.
As I was out last night in East Lansing, as a matter of fact, somebody asked me if I was going to come to Ann Arbor and see the Messiah. I'm wondering how comfortable or uncomfortable you are with this perception that you're the savior of Michigan football.
I'm not comfortable with that at all. As I said, as I said, this is I'm standing on a foundation that has been built for over 100 years by some great men, and I feel like I'm standing on their shoulders, and I want to do a good job. I want to be good. We want to win. We want to win at practice. We want to win on the practice field. We want to win in the classroom. We want to win in the community. We want to win on fall Saturday afternoons, and we'll have great expectations for that. Michigan's always been great. There is it's always been great, and I always believe in it. What's the best thing you could possibly, in terms of selling something? You're selling something that you believe in your core. I made a guarantee a long time ago, and I've learned from that. I've grown. I understand that you don't make guarantees. Did I leave the NFL dismayed? I don't understand what that means.
If the man who coached you here was able to be standing here today, what do you think he'd say to you?
That's a great question.
Nice to meet you. My question is, how will you be able to sell this program?
Were you that young Michigan Daily reporter that was at the airport last night?
No, that was not me.
Where's that young man? That was you. Heck of a job. Heck of a job. There's a good. What's your name? Alejandro, stand up there. This guy. There's a go-getter right there. That's a go-getter.
How do you feel your personality translates to the college game? Again.
I feel like it's the only personality I have.
Who's got it better than us?
Nobody.
From the University of Michigan, joining me back on the Rich Eisen Show, Charles Woodson. Charles, how are you?
Rich, man, I'm doing great. Doing great, man.
It's a great day.
Hey, this is a great day, man.
What do you think, Charles? When we last spoke in the middle of December, we didn't think this was going to happen.
Well, let's revisit that. We did say there was a chance, right?
Yes, we did, like a Dumb and Dumber chance, like we're saying there's a chance.
We were talking about Dumb and Dumber chance. Let me put that in context for you.
Yes.
So, in the movie, Jim Carrey wanted this woman, and she said, there's a 1 in a million chance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, in real life, he actually married that woman.
That's true, Lauren Holly. Yes, Charles Woodson.
He actually married that woman. So when we say there's a chance,
yes,
we are speaking volumes about something. That means there's really, literally a chance that it could happen, and it happened.
Charles, thanks for calling in. I appreciate it. A big day today for us, Charles. A big day today. And all I got to say, and certainly to WYTS AM 1230 in Columbus, Ohio, who's got the Rich Eisen Show on its radio station, go blue. Right, Charles? Go blue.
Go blue. Absolutely.
Fantastic. Charles, thanks for calling in, man.
Very happy that Michigan's made a selection and a very quality coach, and it's just a matter of time before they return to prominence, and go blue.
Obviously, this crowd does not need to be motivated. Thank you for the enthusiasm and the support. Even though we have not done a darn thing, it is much appreciated. I pledge to you that we will do our very best to carry on the great tradition of Michigan excellence all across the board. And what I ask is this is a team effort. That it's the faculty, it's the alumni, it's the students, it's the student athletes. Everybody that's for us is for us. Thank you very much. You know how to make a guy feel at home. And my family and I appreciate it very much. And I love you too. Thank you very much.
He's Hutch. Steve Hutchinson on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, Hutch?
I'm doing well. I'm doing really good today.
How are you doing on this coronation day?
It's good. It's good. The best part about it is now I can stop being your beacon of light. For the past 3 weeks, and you know, you're that ship that's bouncing around in the sea, getting ready to bail ship, and I'm the light. You know, I'm keeping you there to. How many
times, Hutch?
Now it's all done with.
How many days in a row did I text you? What have you heard?
I don't know. I mean, well, it's no, but you know what? It's good. But you know, the thing I'm happy about is, you know, when the salary came out. And it wasn't as high as initially reported.
Why do you feel that way?
Well, because he could have taken probably the Oakland job, probably could have had the Bears job. You know, I don't know what the New York, the Jets situation is, but you know, those are two jobs he probably could have had pretty easy. And now looking at, like I said, at the contract and the way it's set up now, he probably could have had more money. And the fact that he chose his alma mater over that is a good feeling, meaning that, you know, this is something that he's wanted, it's something he's coveted for a long time, and you know, there's a really good chance he gets to play this contract out and hopefully keep going, you know.
Details on Jim Harbaugh's new contract. Here are the nuts and bolts. So he signed a 7-year deal that pays him $5 million a year. He's going to get a 10% increase after years 3 and 5. Harbaugh will also receive incentive payments based on Big Ten championships, bowl appearances, and coaching awards. He also received a $2 million signing bonus.
Said, Pete, there's no arguing the fact that this is a huge day for Michigan, not just because they get the guy that they want, but this is also the day when Ohio State is supposed to have the spotlight. It's media day down at the Sugar Bowl as they get ready to play in the first ever college football playoff. And here we are. We're talking about Michigan, a team that won't even play in a bowl game. And we're not just talking about it here at the Big Ten Network. People are talking about this nationally. You know, to steal that P.T. Barnum line, I guess any publicity is good publicity.
Yeah. I mean, there's no question that Jim Harbaugh and Michigan hijacked the news cycle, really not only the college football one, but the NFL one, too. And they did a great job of that. And there were certainly some annoyed people. I'm just walking out of the media day here at the Sugar Bowl. There were certainly some annoyed people about the amount of attention that Michigan was getting. But at the end of the day, Ohio State is today where Michigan wants to be, and will take a few years to get to the point where they even talk about getting there. So they have a ways to go, but yeah, no question, this is a huge day for Michigan. It's the holler they needed to have.
Joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show, I am thrilled, the new head coach of the University of Michigan, Jim Harbaugh. Coach, how are you?
Go Blue, Rich.
That's it. Yes. Go Blue to you, sir.
That fight song fires you up, doesn't it?
Are you kidding me? I want to hit somebody right now, Jim.
Me too.
You know,
unfortunately, the game has passed us by.
Alas, who has it better than us, Coach?
I know the answer to that one. Nobody.
And the fact that you did this, Coach, I cannot tell you how much it means to people like me and everybody else that roots for Michigan football. The fact that you did this means the world. And I just wanted to say that to you, and you hear that from somebody that gives voice to people like me.
I really appreciate it, and I truly believe, and I've always felt this way, I think 99% of the people that come to the University of Michigan have the most wonderful
experience that they could possibly have. And as an alumni of the university, and speaking for people that speak around here about you, I mean, everybody here is forever proud that you're a Michigan graduate, and we're always happy for the other guys' success, but especially when they come from our school, and forever proud of what you're doing. You're doing a tremendous job.
Michigan landed their new tight ends coach and assistant special teams coordinator, 25-year-old Jay Harbaugh, the son of Jim Harbaugh. I'm Kerry Chow, joined by ESPN college football reporter Adam Rittenberg. Adam, what do you make of the hire?
Kerry, again, it's certainly a familiar name for Jim to bring in his son to coach the tight ends and help out with special teams. Jay Harbaugh does have, for a young guy, a decent amount of experience. Spent the last 3 years in the Baltimore Ravens organization. Obviously, their head coach is his uncle, Jim's brother, John Harbaugh, who also served as a student assistant coach throughout his time at Oregon State. So for a relatively young guy, he has some experience, but he's also going to be, barring a surprise, the youngest assistant coach in the Big Ten, full-time assistant coach. So it's definitely a big job for a young person, and Jim evidently thinks his son is ready for it.
There's a new color, khaki, as Michigan is embracing Jim Harbaugh, and football is looking for a rebirth.
Reese, not a lot of people know this, but Jim Harbaugh was an outstanding basketball player in high school at Palo Alto High School when his dad, Jack Harbaugh, was coaching at Stanford. He actually played with two former ESPN anchors, Dave Feldman and Bill Pito, and you had to carry them. You must have been a hell of a player to carry those two schleps.
They're very good. They should have got the ball more. They should have got more shots.
How good of a high school basketball player were you?
Probably average.
Average, come on. What'd you average?
19.8 points a game.
That is not
that I was.
Not that you're counting how many shots you take a game.
A lot. Before the three-point line.
Now, do you think your coaching prowess in football can translate to basketball? They say the great coaches can coach anything. Can you coach basketball?
I thought I could, but I went to an Indiana game last year, sat on the bench. And my nephew Riley Crean knew a lot more about basketball than I did. So
well, you think you can coach
football?
You think you can coach the State Farm shooter?
I've had some experience at that.
Okay, you did hit a half-court shot at Kansas last year, right?
Yeah, Jay, here that shot is. Here is the shot that Harbaugh hit at Kansas last year from the half court.
Michael.
We'll introduce you to the shooter in a second. Here's the flashback. March 5th, 2014, and Jim reined it in. So watch Jim Harbaugh and learn. Michael Shapiro is shooting for $18,000. This is Matt Fahome from State Farm, the $18,000 representing the 18,000 State Farm agents across North America. Jim, you want to give him a little coaching?
Yeah. Michael, what's your plan?
Nothing.
Don't bank it straight in? How are you going to get enough on it? Make sure you get enough on it. You got to get it there. So you're not going to go like you're going to go.
One step shot.
Show me what you got.
All right, let's go. Matt, give him the basketball and let's take the shot. All right, 18 seconds, as many shots as you can get up.
Whoa.
Here we go. Come on, man, come on. Jim, feed him. Feed him, Jim.
Hands on.
Oh, that's. Get him.
Don't watch the shot.
Feed him. Here, not down.
Don't watch it.
Oh, one more.
Come on, one more.
Didn't quite make it. Jim, this is going to have to come out of your pocket if you make this. Michael, good run at it. $1,800 is consolation prize.
Don't watch the ball. As soon as you shoot it, go get another one.
Boy, that one is close. I love Harbaugh is still coaching it right there. He said, don't watch the shot. Go get another one.
Let's have Jim
Hey, Jim.
Take one, Jim.
Take one, Jim.
Get in there, Jim. Get in there.
Get in. One more. Harbaugh! Yes! So close.
Every college coach wants a player to hustle for him, but first a coach must hustle to get that player on his squad. Newly anointed Michigan coach Jim Harbaugh got crafty with his recruiting tactics, recreating boss Tagovailoa's prom proposal. Tagovailoa is one of the top defensive tackle prospects in the class of 2016 at a De La Salle High School in California. He asked his date to the prom by making a sign that read, "Prom will be sour without you, so let's make it sweet." Prom ? Well, Harbaugh edited the sign to his liking, swapping out the word prom and replacing it with the word Michigan, but kept the colorful font. No word yet on how Tagaloa got the photo, but he was sure to share Harbaugh's proposal with the world on Twitter.
And for the first time on our BTN Airways, we welcome in the head coach of the Michigan Wolverines, Jim Harbaugh, to talk about his first recruiting class. Only 5 weeks for this class, and due to logistics, a low amount of numbers on this year. So how did you and your staff approach this unique recruiting process?
Well, we attacked it. Looking for football players, guys that would compete academically and compete on the football field at a very high level.
Two high-profile QBs coming in, Zach Gentry and Alex Malzone. What do you see in them?
Really good things. First, Alex Malzone, 3 state championships in the state of Michigan. Very good thrower. Great intangibles. Very impressed with him. He's an early enrollee. Zach Gentry, he's got height, he's got speed, also another great demeanor, and impressed with both of those youngsters. There are very special words that are in the English language that we all embrace. There's family, there's friends, there's teammates, there's victory. I was reminded of another very special word when I was driving into Ann Arbor this morning, and that word is homecoming.
Emotionally, there were many layers to the first day of spring ball. A rebirth, a celebration, a homecoming. Better yet, let's let Coach Harbaugh describe it.
A lot of people think January 1st is the start of the new year, and those that believe in Christianity, espouse the Catholicism, believe that correlates with the birth of Christ. But we in football treat the first day of spring practice as the new year. It's like your birthday, it's like the New Year's, it's Thanksgiving. You're thankful that you can participate in football.
There you go.
It's like Christmas. You have this gift. It's like a family reunion. It's all those things all rolled into one. It's happening.
Hut! Don't push it.
It's like the first day of school. Lay your clothes out the night before and pack your lunchbox tight and you head off to school.
Harbaugh charged into his first practice like we knew he would, spending much of his time hands-on with the quarterbacks.
It's the fun part about being the head coach. You can coach any position. You can coach them all, at any time. That's a fun thing about the job of head coach. So I like coaching all the positions at some point.
The media peppered the coach with questions, some about a depth chart. Those answers will be forthcoming as the student athletes battle it out on the field.
We're not really answering questions as much as we are asking questions. What can we do? How can we get better? Where do we need to? Where can we improve? Where can we get a mile an hour faster? Where can we get a % better? And we're all in that process right now.
Of particular interest is quarterback. Right now, there are 7 listed on the roster.
That'll be the one position I'm sure we'll talk about, and they don't have one to name today, but I don't know. At some point, you'd like to think that that's clear cut, and somebody earns that, and it's not close. That's what we'll be hoping for.
To get the guys ready for spring, strength and conditioning coach Kevin Tolbert put in countless hours, and Harbaugh says he liked the results.
Team's in very good shape. Kevin Tolbert, his staff, did a very nice job, and the fellas did a nice job. You could see that throughout practice. The team's in good condition, and that gives us a fighting chance.
I asked Coach Harbaugh for a grade on day number 1. He simply said, very good. The Wolverines will be in meetings Wednesday and then back here at Glick Fieldhouse for practice number 2 on Thursday. For MGoBlue.com, I'm Ed Kingerski.
Interesting. I always thought of spring football as going back into the womb because you have to put that uniform back on. You've been walking around campus free for a couple months, and now you're back into that cage looking through a face mask. The one thing he has to do is...
Such a horrible visual.
Spring football is horrible, believe me, especially for older players, because it's not necessary, and they reinstall everything. But this is huge for Harbaugh in this moment, and I'll tell you why. I watched him do this at Stanford when he came into the Pac-10, and nobody expected him to do it. He instilled a blue-collar mentality with blue bloods. at Stanford. So much so to where he made them wear gas station shirts with their names on them. And that's Stanford. You know, that's a place where these guys all play Beethoven on the piano. Now, Michigan is a little bit different, but they are a football blue blood. But he needs to instill that blue-collar physical mentality, and it is not going to be pretty. It's going to be a bloodbath. It's going to be very physical, but he knows what he wants to do with a football team, and it's an amazing thing to watch.
How good can this team be?
Just about the ceiling, and for anybody else, Urban Meyer at Ohio State, he can win. You know, Jim Harbaugh's a winner, and if they respond physically and find the quarterback.
But I'm saying who he has to work with.
Well, they're fine. I mean, look, who did he have to work with at Stanford? A bunch of guys that were going to go to Vanderbilt or Duke or Northwestern. You know, he's going to be fighting against Michigan-level talent, and he's a great football coach. There's no doubt about it.
We're talking about a college football coach in February on the night where there's all this news is a reminder that where Harbaugh goes, so goes the shine and the attention and the expectations and motivation and the feeling that you're important. We knew this was going to be the case. So great for Michigan, so huge for those players, so huge for what it means to be a part of that program.
What about the whole Big Ten?
Everybody wins with Urban Meyer. I mean, everybody, and I guess he likes that.
He wins too.
So maybe he wins too.
Remember where he started at Stanford? He took over for a program that was a disaster. They were 1-11 the year before he came. He didn't get a winning record until his third year. It was a remarkable accomplishment. Look, he's coming into a disaster by Michigan standards, but this is not a big picture disaster. They were 5-7. This team has some talent. They can get a winning record in his first year.
What's interesting to me is I was there at that first Stanford camp, not the spring camp, but the fall camp, and nobody cared. I mean, it was Stanford. Jim Harbaugh at Stanford coming from USD.
Nobody believed, right?
Nobody cared. There was nothing to believe in. I mean, he was coming from USD.
Yeah.
Now there's a lot more attention to where we're talking about it. It's a much more football-oriented school like Michigan. It'll be interesting to see how this develops.
Well, then what's a successful year for him?
I think if they lose a couple games, it's no big deal. I just think it's the mentality that people thought Brady Hoke was bringing to the big house physically, but never happened. Harbaugh's going to bring it with that power.
The culture they bring, and the kids they recruit, too.
You didn't have to be there. You could sense the sheer enthusiasm through the television. That was a smile seen around the world when Jim Harbaugh was introduced as the new head coach at the University of Michigan. But that was just the beginning. Then the tweets started rolling in, whether it was life advice quoting Yogi Berra or selfies supporting the fight against cancer to dates with his daughter Addie at the Cracker Barrel. Jim Harbaugh is the man. You may still not believe me, so Harbaugh added to the list yesterday, helping a woman out of her wrecked car on a highway in Ann Arbor, and he gave her his jacket. I mean, I rest my case. To quote Harbaugh himself, "I'm going to go attack this day with enthusiasm unknown to mankind." And speaking of resting my case, Jim Harbaugh loves Judge Judy.
Per police report, Jim Harbaugh helped a woman who crashed on I-94 today in Ann Arbor. He helped her out of her Jeep and gave her his jacket.
I love it. Let me see your face. Mike, let me get a glimpse. Let me see that face.
And look what we have here. Jim Harbaugh in an A's uniform. What is a new Michigan coach doing there? He is friends with Bob Melvin. He will be coaching the A's at first base today. Hey, if he can coach football, why not a little baseball as well?
Third inning, Angels lead it 1-0. A very unique man in that first base coach's box. As we look down from the broadcast booth, Jim Harbaugh had so much success in the Bay Area with Stanford and the San Francisco 49ers. University of Michigan head football coach. Friends with Bob Melvin in that first base coach's box as Alex Hassan takes strike one, 0-1 the count.
As you would expect it, he was getting his little training session from first base coach Ty Wilder, and it's good to see that connection with the Bay Area now that who would have thought that just a couple of months ago we'll be talking about Jim Harbaugh not being the 49ers head coach, and here it is.
1-1 the count to Hassan as he lines it into center field at base.
Special guest, the head coach of the Baltimore Ravens, John Harbaugh.
Thank you very much. Sit down, kneel down, whatever. I just want to thank Coach Harbaugh over here, Coach Harbaugh Jr., the Coach Harbaugh's Coach Harbaugh Sr., for not throwing me out of practice today. Thank you. Everybody got thrown out of practice. I started walking to the side like everybody else. No, you can stay. Thanks. A great job. It's fun watching you guys practice. What would a Michigan practice be, spring practice be without snow on the side, right? That's what it's all about. We grew up with this. We were at every spring practice for 7 years here growing up. And there wasn't one of them that didn't have snow on the sideline. So you know what? You're part of a great tradition. And you're fighting and getting better. So the last fight that he and I had, after many years of fighting, and here's how it worked, like I was older slightly, so I'd grow, get a little bit bigger, occasionally win a fight against my brother. Then he would catch up to me because he's a big, strong guy, you know, and he'd kick my ass for a little while. And then I'd grow a little bit and be able to get him in a headlock. He denies me. He says I never beat him in a fight. That's not true. I won a couple fights, but went to college, whatever. He went to Michigan. He gets drafted in the first round. I'm coaching football, and he's doing real well with the Bears and decides to take us on a family trip to Amelia Island. You know where that's at? Amelia Island? It's in Florida, okay? It's nice, okay? It's a resort, it's a beach. He's got money now, and we're going to the beach. Okay, we're having a good time. Jay was there. Jay was a couple years old. It was the 4th of July, so we're going to the beach. We're gonna have fun. We get out there, we're swimming around the water, you know, we kind of get next to each other, we start wrestling around, you know, kind of messing around. Next thing you know, we start splashing around, it gets a little rougher, gets a little tougher. Next thing you know, he grabs me around the leg, picks me up in the air, and slams me into the water. Waves rushing over top of us, underwater, I'm kicking, he's got me like all tied up. I'm thinking, all right, he'll let me up here in a minute. Dunks me, picks me up, dunks me again, holds me under the water. Now I'm like, okay, let me up. I'm still underwater. Let me up. Air bubbles going on. You know, it goes through my mind like, he snapped. All those years, all those fights, all that being the little brother, having to hear about his older brother, being all that. This is how it's going to end. He's going to take me down right now. Finally, he lets me out, you know. I look at him, you look after the game, when you walk across the field and you shake your opponent's hand after you win the game and kick his ass, right? The look you have in your eye, right? That's the look he gave me. Kind of like, is that sunlit? You know? And that's where it stood all those years. We haven't fought since. So that's what you're dealing with your head coach, okay? Just so you know, you got a fighter, all right? And that's why you're here in Michigan, because you are fighters. And that's what you are going to be. Today, tomorrow, and when you line up next year, you are going to fight from beginning to end. And occasionally when you do lose, it will be a fight, okay? Right to the end. You're going to win a lot of football games, I promise you. Just keep building up those calluses like he's talking about. Keep coming out here and fighting your ass off every single day, and you're going to like the result of that, all right? All right? Michigan, all right? Let's stand up and get a little Michigan. Let's get a little break on Michigan. 1, 2, 3, Michigan! Hey, wait, one last thing. So after the Super Bowl, okay? So after the Super Bowl, here's what he does. So that was that look, huh? So I go to so Jim comes across the field. Now you can replay this. So I'm coming out. I'm happy, but it's my brother, and I'm gonna do like the, hey, I love you, bro. You know, I love you, bro. So he grabs my hand, give me the hard stiff arm. What'd you say? Tell me what you said. There'll be no hugs. There'll be no hugs.
Hey, great being here. Thanks for coming out. Appreciate it. This is pretty cool with the M microphone right there. So it's wild. But I dressed like Jim. Did you notice? In honor for the clinic. Got my khakis on. But it's just a great thrill. It's been really fun. I haven't been in this building ever. You know, this was the old building back when we were kids, and the last time I was here, it was still the old building. So coming here and seeing the facilities, seeing the staff, seeing the players, talking to the team, hanging out with some recruits. It's just been really, really fun. A couple days.
To Yost Ice Arena, Jim Harbaugh, the Wolverines' new head football coach, interacting with the fans and also the celebrity shootout artist. Now, they say he missed. I think he's looking for the corner. He's trying to pick the corner on this. I hope it wasn't his putting stroke there. Well, when his dad coached at Bowling Green, Jim and his brother John, they played youth hockey. He knows his way around a hockey rink. It's been a few years, obviously. They had a good finish there on the follow-through. Just didn't leave it hanging.
The bottom end to 60, 65,000 on the top end. Judge Judy, however, not there, much to Jim Harbaugh's dismay. Shane Morris, Alex Malzone were. First play from scrimmage, Malzone hands off to Davion Smith. Sometimes the best thing a young quarterback can do is nothing. Let the running back do the work. 34 yards would not, however, lead to any points. Well, Shane Morris says it worked so well for Malzone. Let me try it to Antonio Whitfield. Joe Bolden thinks that's a really bad idea. 5-yard loss at the hands of Bolden, one of the best defensive players in this game. Later in the first, still scoreless, Malzone picked off by Brandon Watson-Howard. How about the DB play here?
Yeah, outstanding play. Don't know if it would have stood during the regular season, but still the concentration and being in a place to make the right play was outstanding.
You're questioning officiating and we're in the spring?
Absolutely.
Early second quarter, Malzone picked off again by Desmond Morgan. Tough decision, but a great play by Morgan. Later, now in the second quarter, we're playing 4 10-minute quarters. Morris goes down at the hands of Lawrence Marshall. Few plays later, it's 3rd and 28. This is Morris's best throw of the day. Drops it in the bucket. Amara Darboh comes up with a 36-yard reception, and we are working the 2-minute offense. Under 30 seconds to play in the second quarter. It's Morris to Jerron Dukes. It was the Dukes. 14 yards on the touchdown. As Jerry prefaced, only touchdown of the day. It is 7-0 Blue. Pick it up in the third quarter. Morris tipped by Jabril Peppers, picked off by Hill. And Jerry, Peppers is upset with himself. As a matter of fact, he's going to go do some calisthenics.
He's got to catch that one. 4 or 5. Perfect push-ups, by the way.
Yeah, that's Jerry DiNardo form. Later in the quarter, Morris taken down again and again. It's Joe Bolden going to play a huge role on the 2015 defense. Some trickery then. Malzone to J.U. Chesson, down to Maurice Ways, 32 yards. We saw quite a few trick plays dialed up in this one, perhaps a sign of things to come. Seconds left in the fourth. Mays trying to get on the board, but Chesson steps out and Blue wins 7-0. Sue-Ann Roback, why don't you handle post-game reaction?
Over the overall, the spring ball, Shane would be ahead. And that's... The competition will rage on, though, starting tomorrow. Into April and into May, and certainly into June and July and August.
Michigan coach Jim Harbaugh is proud to be an American, and if anyone has a problem with that, well, too bad. The University of Michigan canceled a showing of the movie American Sniper because of backlash from Muslim and Arab students saying the film promotes anti-Arab and anti-Muslim sentiments. Harbaugh expressed his thoughts on Twitter, saying, "Michigan football will watch American Sniper. Proud of Chris Kyle and proud to be an American. And if that offends anybody, then so be it." Late Wednesday, Michigan's vice president released a statement saying the decision to cancel a showing had been reversed.
The following is a presentation of HBO Sports.
He does a great job of giving you that spark, that initial boom. But after a while, you just want to kick his ass.
Offensive lineman Alex Boone played for Harbaugh for 4 seasons.
He just keeps pushing you, and you're like, dude, we got over the mountain. Stop. Let go. He kind of wore out his welcome.
What does that mean?
I think he just pushed guys too far. He wanted too much, demanded too much, expected too much. We got to go out and do this. We got to go out and do this. We got to go out and do this. And you'd be like, this guy might be clinically insane. He's crazy.
And then he laid out a plan to make sure genetics didn't get in the way of his dreams. Not just to be taller than his brother, but tall enough to play quarterback in the NFL. Something that seemed impossible, given that no one in his family had ever even been 6 feet tall.
I just set my mind to, I got to be 6'2". I heard that if you drink milk, that builds strong bones, and convinced myself that I'll just drink as much milk as I possibly can drink. Prayed about it a lot. I want to be 6'2", I want to be 6'2". And then when I went to school here at St. Francis Elementary School, I got a job as the milk distributor.
This is starting in what
Third grade. Third
grade, you made this decision.
So we just started delivering milk every day, and we got 1 free milk for delivering all the milk. But every kid that was absent, that tray would go back to the little milk room, and I would just drink as much milk as my belly could hold. I drank a lot of milk, Andrea. A lot of milk. Whole milk, though. Not the candy-ass 2% or skim milk.
And how tall are you?
I finally got to 6'3".
It worked. I mean, he's got me by 3 inches.
Okay, let's get one, let's go.
Michigan knows exactly what they're getting. They've known Jim Harbaugh nearly all his life, and they've decided he's worth it. If the school can get back to winning, and if the players can handle his intensity.
I'm just telling you the right way to do it. So you want to look at me like with that look? Go fucking somewhere else. It's not a fun sport.
Not a fun sport.
No, but what you come to love is the struggle of it. I love football. Love it, love it. I think it's the last bastion of hope for toughness in America, in men, in males. I want to do it for as long as I'm good at it. And I love Michigan.
And in 4 years when we come back and visit, if not sooner, where will you be?
God willing and the creek don't rise, I'll be right here.
Jim Harbaugh, and this is my opinion, is right where he belongs. I think Jim Harbaugh is as good a football coach as there is. Anybody else you want to put in the discussion?
Exactly.
Nick Saban, Urban Meyer, Bill Belichick, whomever you want. Jim Harbaugh took over Stanford. They were nothing. Stanford football was nothing. He made them excellent. Excellent. He took over the 49ers. They had been awful forever. He made them excellent. Now he goes to Michigan. They have been, by their lofty standards, nothing for a while. He's going to make them excellent. New group comes in. So to me, Jim Harbaugh might be the best football coach in the world, and he is now exactly where he belongs.
I'm Andy Staples for SI.com. I'm here with Lindsey Schnell and Zach Ellis, and we're talking about Jim Harbaugh's offseason. This is a guy who he returned to Twitter when he returned to college football, and I think we're all better off for that.
And what a return it was.
What are your favorite Jim Harbaugh offseason moments? Because he's been able to keep himself and Michigan in the news almost constantly.
Well, so far, and let's be clear that we still have a lot of offseason left, I love that he made a pitch to his young children, his young daughter, to move to Michigan by saying, the frozen princesses, Anna and Elsa, you have a young daughter, you're familiar with them.
I am way too familiar with Anna
They
and
live
Elsa.
in Michigan. They don't live in Northern California where it's cold. They need to be in cold weather.
Please
I
don't
really
tell
like that.
my daughter that.
Because then
I
you
don't-
will be moving to Michigan
I
as
don't
well.
want to move, no. And they are probably the best recruiters going. Elsa and Anna cannot be denied. My favorite, though, is he starts doing these satellite camps. They're going to go to Alabama. They're going to have a camp in Georgia. The SEC coaches naturally start complaining because there's a dumb SEC rule that keeps them from doing that themselves. So what does Jim Harbaugh do? He invites them all to come to Ann Arbor and work his camp and makes them look like complete jerks in the process.
Topics coming up, these satellite camps. A lot of the Big Ten teams are coming to this area. What are your thoughts on teams coming to Alabama?
Well, I think everybody's got to recruit, the way that they should recruit. We're not allowed to have satellite camps in the SEC, but if we're all going to travel all over the country to have satellite camps, how ridiculous is that? I mean, we're not even allowed to go to All-Star game, but now we're going to have satellite camps all over the country, so it doesn't really make sense.
What are your thoughts on the satellite camps? With Jim Harbaugh coming down to SEC territory, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, well, first of all, this past year, I mean, the chances of a team up north, coming in our state when us and Alabama both wanted players, slim to none. But, from a conference standpoint, if they continue to do it, the NCAA does not change the rule, we're going to do it. And so we're working through that now, and I think all coaches are on board.
The statement on the SEC basically as a conference in regard to the satellite stuff.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? We just saw one this week with Harbaugh over in Alabama.
Yeah, I'm not into. I like kids coming to our camp. Kids, the satellite camps, they're recruiting camps. I mean, basically, it's a recruiting thing and a recruiting fair that they're doing it for. Yeah. Sure. I imagine, Jim Harbaugh probably if he's going to have a camp, would want to coach the kids in Michigan, the young kids in Michigan, maybe how to be better football players.
If that were the purpose.
If it was a purpose, I'm sure they have one, right? I mean, so why do they need one all over the place? I mean, the only purpose for it, obviously, is recruiting, which I don't think's the right purpose for camp.
Jim Harbaugh took Casual Friday to a new level this week. The Michigan coach jumped into the action at a high school satellite camp in Alabama, and he was representing Team Skins. The Wolverines coach was wearing his traditional Michigan hat and khakis while playing a game Harbaugh calls Peru ball. The game, which basically has no rules, originated when Harbaugh was part of an impromptu football game with locals in Peru while he was there for a humanitarian trip. There's no denying Harbaugh's enthusiasm. Clearly, the coach loves what he does.
Going hard! You go, on the first bag, you're going. On the first bag, you're going. Good, let's go. One in each, let's go. Attack it, man, let's go. Finish. There's some force coming by here. Just take it right of your cone. Good work, good work. Nice.
got back right up inside of me. Get off the ground. Start your line right there.
Each 12 guys want to play. Just leave it and not saying anything. 12.
It's awesome because we're playing. We decided to play a different game and he takes care of it. Hear him? Internet, right? Jim Harbaugh.
Hey guys, that's all the time we have for today. But I know that's it. That's all we got for today. We'll pray we get a good night's sleep, and we'll pray for health and one more day tomorrow. See if we can accomplish something tomorrow too. But on behalf of all the coaches here, especially the Michigan coaches, that was a blast.
Joe, hey, the big horse race tomorrow.
Who do you have? Let's talk about it. Shirtless in Seattle?
He didn't.
Yes, he did.
He's still been out of shape about that.
Yeah, he is.
Lots of people go in the work environment without wearing a shirt.
Oh, my God.
Lots of people do. It's very, very common.
Oh, my God, this is unbelievable.
What's unusual about that?
It's unbelievable.
It's the most common. You've never done
I'm going to tell you something. You are, Jamie, I'm going to tell you something. You're the best. This guy is the best.
What?
Oh, my God.
Oh, he took his shirt off. I didn't even notice.
This guy is the best.
Yeah, it's hot in here.
Listen to your muscles, pal. Come on.
Come on, join us. Our goal every crosswalk is to get him to laugh so hard he falls out of his chair.
I got to tell you. Oh, you don't Jamie, have 55 theater, do you? There are days where you are the funniest SOB I know. The way he sauntered in this room shirtless. Like what? He had that what? Who me look? He looked like Tayshaun Prince after Tayshaun would commit a foul. Look at the rest.
What? Who me? It's not a race, but it's kind of a race because you're allowed to try at it. Right? Here we go. Take a couple laps.
Jim Harbaugh, the former 49ers coach, came to Fresno on Thursday for a high school football camp. It's part of the DB Guru camp that longtime Valley assistant coach Tony Perry has held in Fresno each summer for the past 15-plus years.
This was my best camp I done had. The kids, we had a good turnout. We had kids come from all over California, which was real big.
About 350 athletes participated in the 3-hour clinic today at Roosevelt High, Perry's biggest turnout ever. He could thank Harbaugh for that. Now coaching at the University of Michigan, Harbaugh and his staff got an up-close look at football players from Central California. A few other college assistants worked the camp too, including USC offensive coordinator Clay Helton, and that means more exposure for Valley athletes.
The coaches that I work the camps, they give me a lot of respect. So Jim came back from pros to college, and a lot of the coaches were telling him, since you're going into Cali, you need to see Perry. He's in the middle of California, and he always has some good kids, and there's a lot of good kids in the area where he's at.
The DB Guru Camp is one of 11 stops that Harbaugh and his Michigan coaching staff will make over 10 days as they scout the nation for recruits, as well as teach teenagers some football fundamentals. Harbaugh, a former NFL quarterback, even ran some drills to show the quarterbacks how it's done. Harbaugh was not allowed to talk about the camp activities under NCAA rules, but he talked about being in Fresno.
I had a great time here in Fresno. This is probably the 15th time I've been here, and every time I've been here has been A++.
Fans clamored for autographs and pictures with Harbaugh. Players and teachers did the same thing after the camp. Harbaugh smiled and accommodated as much as he could.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. That's once a lifetime type thing. So I took advantage of it.
Perry and other Valley coaches viewed the camp as a major win for Fresno.
Well, it just showed you how far the Valley has come, with athletes. And, we have always had great athletes in the past, but, they never got the recognition. And now, by getting out and taking them kids all over the place and playing all them different tournaments and kids signing every year, it's starting to really pick up.
And it's refreshing to see coaches come that far to take part in something like this. This was a great event.
Back to Comerica Park. It wasn't that long ago. We had the first pitch, and it was the new University of Michigan head football coach Jim Harbaugh throwing a dart there to Brad Ausmus. I asked him before the game, during pregame, I said, are you nervous at all about throwing out the first pitch? He said, nervous, looked at me and incredulous. This guy lives to compete in everything he does. So he left no doubt about it. Maybe a little up and out of the zone there, but he did get it across the plate.
No, this will be my first time throwing out a first pitch in any venue. Been practicing since I was 5 years old.
Who was your guy as a Tiger back in the day? Who'd you grow up loving?
Gates Brown and Mark Fidrich and Alan Trammell and Lou Whitaker and Bill Freehand and Al Kaline and Ernie Harwell, George Kell. Loved them all. It was my team growing up. I was a pretty good baseball player. My dad was coaching out at Stanford. It was my senior year. I was hitting .417 at the time. And Dean Stotts was the hitting coach at Stanford. And he gave my dad this new theory of hitting by Charlie Lau. It was the Charlie Lau theory of hitting. So my dad brought it home and said, we're going to the cage, bucket of balls. We did some soft toss, and he taught me this Charlie Lau theory of hitting, which was basically chopping down on the ball. So after that, the rest of the season, I could not get the ball out of the infield. It's a complete power outage, and I was resorting to bunting my way on and any way I could get on base. And then when I took the Stanford job, I ran into Dean Stotts in the parking lot, and he was driving his truck, and I went up to him and, hey, Coach, it's Dean Stotts. Remember me? Yeah, I remember you. You brought the Charlie Lau theory of hitting to my dad, and he gave it to me, and I couldn't get the ball out of the infield for the rest of my baseball career. So I said, yeah, the old Charlie Lau. And then he said, yeah, Charlie Lau, good. I said, wait, what was that? I go, what was what? And he goes, that thing where you took your hand off the bat. I didn't get that part. So all I got was that. So I was a victim of overcoaching by my dad. I mean, you're supposed to swing through it, and then the hand comes off the bat. But so I was a pretty good baseball player until that.
I just want to tell you, Charlie Lau couldn't hit either.
Is that right?
Yeah, he was a third-string catcher.
No. I mean, I'm not disparaging Charlie Lau at all. I'm sure it's a wonderful theory of hitting, but I only got half of it. I didn't get the second half. I didn't get the follow through coaching.
That drives the sport. Jim Harbaugh is joining us. When are you at your least intense? Because you are a pretty intense guy.
Well, good morning, Colin. How are you?
I'm great, Coach. How are you?
Good to hear your voice.
Thank you so much. Is there ever a moment in the day you're like, oh, man, I'm cupcake. I'm soft. I'm easy. When's the part of the day that you are just like you're a pushover?
I don't know. I guess I don't know. Maybe ask Sarah, my wife. I don't know.
Yeah. The Big Ten feels like it's a bye for me. Like, do you have a sense of that and a feel for the conference overall?
The Big Ten feels like a bye to you?
Yeah, it does. Because
how does it feel that way? I don't.
You don't see that?
No, I don't. Yeah, explain that to me. I don't.
Well, because the bottom line. Well, I mean, let's be honest. Michigan's a heavyweight. Ohio State's a heavyweight. They now both have great coaches. It feels like the Big Ten is on the come. It feels like there's momentum in the conference that I didn't feel.
Oh, a buy, like something to buy as opposed to sell.
Yes.
Oh, I thought a bye week or buy.
No.
Like a buy.
Yeah, that's what it feels. I'm a 4-3 wide receiver. Why should I play at Michigan?
You are?
No. If I was. This seems terribly difficult, Jim. For you, this is just not work. I love you to death, I really do, but it seems like we're going nowhere with this. And I love you. I'm a huge Harbaugh fan.
What can I do to make your interview better?
You can't. I'm just asking open-ended questions, and you have not much to say. I want you to sell your program. That's why I bring Urban on, and I bring Steve Sark. I love you guys. I want you to sell your program. Listen, I love you. It's not working. I appreciate you stopping by, Jim Harbaugh. I've been in the business 10 years, folks. That was a clunker. There's not much I can do about that. I tried. I asked every open-ended question I could. You got nothing to say.
Other than football, what is your favorite thing about being back in Michigan?
Autumn, that is a wonderful question. Thank you for asking that question. Things with my family is my favorite thing about being back in Michigan. How old are you?
6.
6. So I have a 6-year-old daughter named Addie and a 4.5-year-old daughter named Katie, and Jack is 2.5. My son James is 18. He'll be a freshman at Michigan. My son Jay is coaching at Michigan. He's 26. And then, so seeing all my kids back here in Ann Arbor doing some of the same things that I did when I was your age and their age. Went over to St. Francis Elementary School, and we met the teachers for the first grade and the kindergarten class. And just walking down the hallways, seeing them in the same school that I went to, it might have been the best moment about being back in Ann Arbor. And St. Francis is a typical Catholic school. It's old and it's clean, and it's and there's a lot of memories, and pretty neat to think that my kids are going to be experiencing some of the same things that I did. You excited for school to start?
Mm-hmm.
When does school start for you?
I don't know. I do not know when school starts.
Your mom will tell you.
I do.
How about a big smile for all the
September
cameras? You gotta, let's see a big, pretty smile. Let's look at all these cameras. They want to see a big smile? Great job. Great
How
job.
much milk do I have to drink to be big enough to be quarterback?
Can I give you a hug? That is a great question, and I love that you're thinking about that. Drink as much milk as your little belly can hold. At all times, drink as much milk as could be chocolate milk, could be the 2%, but the ideal is the whole milk. That's the ideal. As much as your little belly can hold.